Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Newcastle podcast. I am your host, Nicola. I've not hosted one of these in way over about a month and a half because I've been on my holidays, and I am joined by two lovely guests. So I'll kick off with the first one. I am joined by Michael. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you very much. How was you and how was the halls?
Good. Holiday was good, although I think the UK is even more hotter than what it was abroad. If anyone's watching, I'm like absolutely sweating in my little office right now. I am
Glowing,
so hot.
you mean glowing, Nicola? You mean glowing?
Glowing, glistening. And that leads me nicely into my second guest. It's Iain. How are you?
I'm great. I'm doing fab. Thank
Are you sure? You don't
Do you want to tell
it.
your voice
Well,
that, buddy?
Yeah.
Really?
Are you sure? Yeah.
Yeah, everything is good. We've got Anthony Elanga. Oh, spoiler alert.
Here we
have
go.
got him.
Yeah. We're struggling for content, guys, because it's very quiet over in the Newcastle camp at the minute, other than our Anthony Elanga link. So we'll kick off part one, I suppose, of talking about Anthony Elanga coming into the Newcastle camp. I haven't fully caught up with all the pods, so I apologise if you guys have probably already covered this because you guys have been holding the fort down whilst we've all been off on our jollies, clearly. But me, Kevin, Joe were speaking about how a couple of months ago we were talking about who we would like to see come into the Newcastle squad in the summer transfer window. This might have been even last year when we were talking about it. I actually said Madueke. And I believe Kev actually said he would love to see Anthony Elanga, and we touched on how we're looking forward to him coming in to the squad and how exciting it will be for Newcastle. So I'm going to ask that exact same question to you both. How are we feeling about our imminent signing? Michael, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. Anytime you can get a 20-year-old that's got more goals and assists in the last two seasons than the likes of Mackay or Saka, and, Kulusevski, there's a lot of right wingers who just simply haven't done what Elanga's done over the last two seasons. And it's not just a 1 year thing. He did it the year before as well. And let's be honest, he's a very exciting attacking talent that's going to help us on the counter-attack, because if you consider us and Liverpool got 15 goals on the counter-attack last season. In the Prem, we only got 5. So you'd think with Anthony Gordon and Harvey Barnes, etc., obviously very rarely those two played with each other, but Isak as well, you'd expect us to get a bit more. Elanga's definitely going to help with that. And he's a different kind of player to Jacob Murphy. Completely different. So it's one of those where it's going to complement us really well. When teams have a bit of a low block, we've got someone for them. And then when we've got our backs against the wall a little bit, we've got Fabian Schär on the turn, just having to hoof it over the defence, hoping that someone's going to get out of it. We've got a AAA battery. Yeah, we've got a AAA battery. Alexander, Anthony and Anthony all just running in behind, and we'll get some extra goals that way. So I'm very happy about it, but let's shore up that defence next as well.
Yeah, I am in a complete agreement. And I actually said on the other night's pod that I really like when, obviously, Fabian Schär gets that moment in every game where he just does what he wants. So I'm looking forward to it this season where he does choose hoof it over everyone and just hopes for the best that either Anthony on either side are going to collect it. Iain, how are you feeling about our imminent signing? And by the way, guys, we're recording this on Wednesday evening before 7 p.m. So we are, it's Thursday, isn't it? Is it Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's Thursday today.
Yeah. We're recording it Thursday before 7 p.m. So by the time this pod's done and dusted, potentially it could have been announced. So yeah, we're waiting and hoping. Sorry, Iain, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, well, I think I don't think there's any doubt that it's going to be announced, because we have just looked in the last hour at the photographs of Anthony Elanga being introduced to some of his teammates. So I don't think they'll be doing that just because he was up in the northeast for the evening. I think that means he's definitely coming. I'm delighted. I'm delighted with it. I was in the Mbeumo camp at the end of the season.
Same.
Very, very clearly, we weren't going to get that because he just wanted too much money. I don't know if Man United, who have been after him for the last 7 weeks, are going to get it yet. They're looking down the back of the sofa for a bit more cash, I think. But Elanga is a fantastic substitute. His stats were on a par with Jacob Murphy's almost last year. with a pair of them on the right wing, there's going to be a constant threat. I love the pace. I love how it enhances what else we've got. He seems to slot into how we play very well. Proof of the pudding, of course, will be in watching how he beds in. But he's already got some established relationships with some key members of the team. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it, providing it's the first of 3, 4, 5 signings this summer.
Yeah.
Because I don't think
Absolutely.
that is enough. I think it improves us on the right wing, but I think we are looking for some more strength and depth in midfield, certainly some more reinforcements in defence, and I'm not going to say a backup striker for Alexander Isak, because I think we're looking for a second striker that can play with Alexander Isak sometimes or can take his place.
Yeah, I think particularly in a long season like this, where we're pretty. I think the minimum amount of games we're going to play is 48. So you got the 38 in the league, 8 in the Champions League, and then providing we get knocked out in the first round of the two cups, 48 games is still a lot, and I don't think Isak's played more than 30 for us in either. So. I might be wrong. He might have just gone over in one of the seasons, but he's a little injury prone, and I think it's going to be one of those where if you bring it in a striker, you are saying to him that, look, if we do loan out Asula, which to be fair doesn't look likely, that room has been sort of debuffed today, but there's 18 games there minimum really that you're going to start, and for a Champions League club, that's still pretty good. So. I agree with Ian. It could be a second striker, but I don't think it'll be someone of the quality that we're really looking at, like a Visa or I nearly said a Dominic Calvert-Lewin. No, a Visa or a Watkins. I think it'll be someone more like a Dominic Calvert-Lewin, unfortunately.
Yeah. We'll touch on strikers in the second part because we spoke about that before we started recording, and obviously we are aware that we are well, obviously with Callum Wilson's departure, that will be probably a position that Eddie Howe is looking at. But just before we end part one, how many more realistic first team, and I put that in sort of quotation marks, signings would you think we should make or would hope to make by the end of the window? Because this is probably realistically the first window where we're going to be really active for what's been over 2 years now. So Michael, how many realistically would you like to see made? Obviously realistically in our dreams are two different things, but
just to clarify, because it does change my answer. Are we talking starting 11 or just sort of starting 11 and bench as well? Because
we'll go starting 11 and bench.
Okay.
Champions League squad, Michael. That's what we need. We need that depth.
Yeah.
Well, I think realistically, trying to think about the squad, I think probably you're looking at 4 or 5. I'd love more, although I am an advocate for not changing too much in a small space of time. But I think in an ideal window, you are getting rid of the likes of, I hate to say it, Matty Target and stuff like that, players who will be there as backups, but realistically you could get rid of and you'd have to replace them. It'd probably end up costing you a little bit of a fee. But I think you could probably get 5 starters, 2 that would go 4 alongside Elanga, 2 that would realistically go straight into the starting 11, a goalkeeper, whether that would be James Trafford or not. 40 million tells me not, to be honest. But if that's what Eddie Howe likes, it's what Eddie Howe likes, and that's what we'll go with. But I'd also want a centre-back to go alongside Sven Botman, and then 2 for the squad as well, where I'd go for another centre-back, because if it is Scalvini and Botman, they've had, I think, 117 games missed between them over the last 2 seasons, so you're going to need someone else in there as well. And then another central midfielder. I know Miley's due for a big year, and apparently he is going to get it. He's not going to get loaned out. But the 2 players we're looking to sell, Willock and Longstaff, you get rid of both of them. I think you need at least one more central midfielder in there, or a number 10 if we'd like to change things up sometimes.
Yeah, lovely. Ian?
I would advocate that we need even more than that, Michael. I go back to the Champions League season when we suffered because of injuries, and nobody can say we didn't have very stretched squad, which impacted into the Premier League as well.
Mm-hmm.
From that squad, we have lost Anderson and Minter in that summer. And then in January, we lost Mickey and the event centre-half, whose name I've forgotten already.
Lloyd Kelly.
Kelly.
So
And
there's
to be
four
fair, neither Kelly
out of
or
our squad.
Minte were with us for the Champions League.
True.
They were on. He was in loan. He was. Minter was was part of the Newcastle, but loaned out. So he was coming back for the next campaign, but we had to sell him. So that was the right winger that would have supported Miggy and Murphy, and we didn't have him. So we had Miggy all the way through the first half of the next season. The point is that there are, I suppose Lloyd contras himself out. He's in and out, isn't he? So I think we need to replace Lloyd Kelly. I think we've got to build for the future and look at Bad Shah needing somebody right-footed to be understudying him. I don't know if there's anybody in the reserves that can come through and do that. I know is there one Heffernan who's meant to be pretty good, Irish lad. Maybe we need to be elevated some of the guys out of the under-21s and testing them without loaning them out first. But then, we lost Miggy. If that's the Elanga replacement, we're still a right winger short from how we started that, how we wanted to start that season. Anderson's gone and not being replaced. That's one midfielder. We're not talking about a midfielder. Wilson's obviously gone, which is the attacker. I think we need to replace him. I've lost count. The one person that we don't need to replace, I don't think, in terms of priorities, is the goalkeeper. But that's the one that's been done from day one. Although, when I was musing to myself last night, I just wondered if Newcastle are not meeting Burnley's 40 million because they think we could probably do without Trafford this season. Let's just have that fail. Let's get Burnley relegated. Let's pick him up for the 25 we want to spend next year and go into this year with Dubravka and Pope. Dubravka and Pope both cut the mustard in the second half of the Premier League last year. It's not like we're really, really short in that department. So, I don't know, that might be a deliberately failed transfer because they want to keep the 35 it's going to cost to put it onto a backup striker, not a backup striker, a second striker or a replacement midfielder. Really strange that they're not selling Longstaff when they get the chance to, and that we've not heard anybody making any offers for Joe Willock. Because I think we need to trade. I think we need to be trading on a way to get enough income in to get the players that we need.
Let's touch on Longstaff and Willock in part 2 because there was a few little rumours. Well, we know Longstaff was linked with Leeds, but there was something I seen online earlier about Willock as well. So let me just break there with an ad from Bioniq, and then we'll pick up back in part 2.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimize your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Okay, part 2. We'll cover off Willock, Longstaff, and backup striker, but not backup striker, depending on which way we're looking at it. So, part 2, we will kick off with Willock and Longstaff. Now, Longstaff was the other day was set to be going to Leeds for 10 million plus 2 million add-ons or whatever it was. And now all of a sudden that has gone a wee bit quiet. I'm not sure why. I don't know if you guys have seen anything, but on the same day, I seen that Joe Willock was also looking to be off to Leeds. I don't know if you guys seen that, but apparently there was some interest from Leeds. I think Joe might have sent something in the chat or to me the other day about it. So let's touch on Longstaff. Obviously, has been a great servant to Newcastle, as we know. But obviously, I personally do think it is time that we see him move on. And I think personally, he will suit Leeds to a T. Very hard worker, and will be great to them. Michael, what's your opinion on that? Have you seen anything why that deal's gone a bit quiet, or has it just gone
the
quiet?
bid's been rejected apparently.
Mm.
New 10 plus 2 apparently wasn't enough. Apparently we're going to look to hold out for around 15 to 20 was what I was seeing. To be honest, it doesn't make all that much sense to me. Outside of the fact that it's a homegrown player from our under 23s.
Yeah.
He was with us for the 5 years, obviously, so he meets that criteria. You need 4. We've realistically got Longstaff and Miley.
Yeah.
That'd be it. So it would hinder us a bit selling Longstaff for the Champions League campaign. It's whether or not you think that 10 million's worth it, really. I would potentially say so, but I think Longstaff's one of those players that he needs to be playing week in, week out. He's not the kind of player that can come off the bench and, change a game or see out the game really for you. He's one of those that he needs to be playing week in, week out because his strength is his stamina and his determination. If
Agreed.
there's not a player, if you're in a relegation battle, and trust us, we know, if you're in a relegation battle, there's not a player you want more than Sean Longstaff because he'll run himself into the ground for you.
Yep.
If you're on the counter-attack, he's very good at getting on the edge of the box and cutting it into the far corner just on those breaks. If you look at, I watched the compilation of his best goals that Sky Sports put up earlier, and I was sitting there, I was going, these are all the same goal, and it's all us on the counter-attack, him sitting there on the edge of the box, just waiting for it.
Yep.
Which, to be honest, I noticed a little bit, and to be honest, I will say he does sky it more often than not. Highlights compilations can't stop me from remembering that. But yeah, it's one of those where I think he's a good player, but he needs to be playing week in, week out, and he's not going to do that at Newcastle. So if they're willing to take it up to 15 million, I don't think we say no. But as it stands, for me, just accept the 10 and plus 2. Let him move on. Let him further his career. And let him be one of the reasons that Sunderland go down. Because Leeds stay up.
Yeah, agreed. Ian, do you agree?
Well, I can see the logic sort of keeping him because it affects how many people we can put in our Champions League squad. But I think the club has said they're not going to stand in his way if they get an acceptable offer. And I think Longstaff himself has said, look, tell me now and you get some money in for me rather than keep me on the bench for the year. And, he might pick up some more winners' medals if he does that. But I think it does him great credit that he's come and said that. It seemed like a good move for Newcastle and Leeds and Longstaff, so I'm not really sure what the hold-up is. Maybe we're just asking Leeds to come back with another couple of mil, but then that seems like a real penny-pinching exercise if we can suddenly go from 60 million up to 80 million for Ekatike on our second striker bid. Seems very odd.
Yeah, it is very odd. I suppose we'll see it play out over the next couple of weeks, I suppose. Speaking of strikers, shall we discuss our need or potential for a backup striker, not backup striker? Who would you both like to see come in if we are in the market for one? Which realistically, I think we should be looking at one, but I'm just little old me sitting in a really hot office, not knowing what I'm talking about. So who would you go for? Obviously, we've mentioned, I can never pronounce his name. Can someone help me out here? It's like a little tongue twister.
Ekatike.
I thought you were saying Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
I can't ever get it. Obviously, he rejected us back in 2022, and now all of a sudden he's not interested. I think there's a lot of agent talk, as Michael said, but he's obviously looking for a move.
Yeah.
So how are we feeling? Who would we like to see? Obviously, realistically as well, if we're looking to get a striker, this striker that potentially will come in has got to be kind of okay with being second to Alexander Isak. So what strikers are in the market that are going to be happy to do that? I don't know.
Well,
Ian?
I would disagree with you there, Nicola. I don't think you've got to sell. Come in. I mean, if you're saying to Calvert-Lewin you can sign for free, then there'll be an assumption that he's there as a backup for covering Alexander Isak. the same way as Callum Wilson would have been if he'd done his pay-to-play contract they were trying to get. I think if you're buying a striker, you want to bring somebody in who could play alongside Isak, can play behind him maybe, can also cover Gordon, Elanga, Barnes, but also give Isak some proper competition. Because it's not long ago, we can remember what it was like that first Champions League season when Wilson and Isak were interchangeable, and they just both made each other score more regularly. And then when they both played together, it was super exciting because we just looked like we were going to score every 10 minutes. I think we need a striker like that. And I think, as Michael said, minimum 48 games. Let's say we have a decent run in both of the Cup. We might be playing 60 games. And if Isak doesn't start any more than 30 of those, then somebody else is going to start 30 games and come on as a substitute in the bulk of the other games as well. So there's a massive role there. I think that's why we were after João Pedro and spending, what was that, 50 million we wanted to spend?
Yeah.
We got him for 50 million and another tenner. So if we're spending that sort of money, we want a first team player. We want somebody who's an integral part of the first team. But I do think that needs somebody who's versatile, because I don't think how we've got used to our first choice team lining up in that 4-3-3 formation, and we could all pick a first team and would have 9 or 10 of the 11 each. I think we need this versatility so that we don't even know what our formation is, and we couldn't tell out of the squad of 16 or 18 good players that we have who it would be that would be forming part of the first team 11 on any given Saturday, in the way that Liverpool do, for example, or Manchester City do. That's what we've got to be aiming for if we want to compete with these teams, and we definitely want to compete with these teams.
Yeah, Michael, do you agree?
Oh, sorry. Like that was complete bollocks that I was talking.
I just think there's no chance of that happening. I think we're Newcastle United, we're not a Liverpool or a Manchester City. And if you bring in someone in, like what we're saying there is, we might play 60 games, and Alexander Isak might not be fit enough to play. He might get an injury. He might do this. It's realistically, no striker worth his salt is going to want to do that at Newcastle United. You can get away with it even at Manchester United, which is annoying, but it's the position we are as a club. We're on the way up. We're doing well, but I don't think we're there yet. And I think there are players that you could potentially get, but I don't think Etatike, Wissa, Watkins, those are the three that we've been linked with recently. I don't think any of those come in for the part of, by the way, Alexander Isak's always going to be number one, but you'll potentially get 30 games a season, maybe 3,000 minutes across all comps. I think the only players that are really going to do that are players that are maybe already doing it, and we can just give them more money for doing it potentially, but we're not going to break our wage structure to do that. So it's a really difficult one. It's why I see Dominic Calvert-Lewin coming in, and I really hope he doesn't. But we're linked with Rodrigo Muniz from Fulham, who basically does that at Fulham, but he's got a good goal record when he comes on. The one that's perfect for that, and he won't come because his wages will be too high, and he's already doing it at ultimately a bigger club than Newcastle, is Alexander Sorloth. Only started 15 games in La Liga last season, but got 20 goals. He's an absolutely clinical player. He's massive. Honestly, he's a completely different player to Alexander Isak, and he gives us something completely different, like DCL, but actually is a good player. But again, he's 29, doesn't really fit the bill. So it's really difficult to see who we're going to go for.
How, in that case, does a centre-forward, an all-out centre-forward that Arsenal are trying to spend a fortune on but might be pulling out of, in terms of Gyökeres, how does Sweden manage to get Gyökeres, Isak and Elanga in their forward line if they're not injured?
Because they play a 4-4-2. They play a 4-4-2. We don't play a 4-4-2.
Well, I know, but there's no
Simple.
rule that says that we can't try that.
Well, so Eddie Howe's never played a 4-4-2 with us yet. He did a bit with Bournemouth, but it's going to be one of those. He's not going to change it like that. He's been
I think he
very
wants
rigid
it.
with his strictum. He was changed it a little bit last year. The reason we went for a João Pedro so we could have someone who could play, perhaps in a number 10, perhaps as a forward, perhaps on the left wing, perhaps on the right wing, was good against a low block. It's one of those where that was a surprising signing. I didn't really want that either. I don't like him as a player, but he did look good for Chelsea the other night. So it's one of those where I don't think we're changing the system not to bring in another player when it gave us so much success over the last 2-3 years. How long did it take to get the three at the back actually working in games for us? We saw it in friendlies 2 years ago. Last year was the first time where we actually saw it and went, wow, this is good. So
Yeah.
we've been working on something for a while, which I don't think we have. Obviously, I'm not seeing training, but I think if we're going to move to 2 up top, it's not going to be this season. It might be next when Isak potentially goes and we get 2 very good strikers to come in and play that way. But it's not. I don't think it's happening this season at all.
No, I do think if we get a striker through the door, that striker is coming in with the full intention of knowing they are sitting on the bench behind Alexander Isak. But that is my opinion, which accounts for nothing really because I don't know anything. But I do think.
Why are we talking about João Pedro then? Why we were after João Pedro for a month. He wouldn't have sit on the bench.
He did for Danny Welbeck last season.
I was going to say, yeah, he did.
Because he's fallen out with the manager, though, didn't he? And that's why
he was
looking
doing
to
it at the start of the season as well, to be fair. Pedro's minutes weren't that good, and when it was, he was actually playing behind Welbeck. Like, there's a reason Danny Welbeck had his best season last season than any he's had before, because, one, he stayed fit, but he played more games than he's ever played, which is, baffling. João Pedro is much better than Danny Welbeck, and obviously it must have been a manager preference. But he was on the bench for the most part. Same with Muniz. So the players we're linked with, they've got experience of being sort of bench players who come on, play a little bit less, but they're still, Pedro seemed to be happy for half the season. Doesn't know exactly when the falling out happened. Definitely not happy at the end of the season. But
No, definitely.
I think that's what we're looking for. Someone who's okay in that position. And will just, we could even say Isak is leaving next season. Maybe you'll have the chance to be number 9 next season. We could always draw players in with that, actually. The number 9.
Number 9.
Isak's going to want to stay 14.
What do you think about us starting with Ekitike, because Isak might be going this season, this summer?
Isak's not going this season.
He's not going this season, no. No way.
Why are we bothering to talk to Ekitike then?
Why not? It's agent talk.
Reasons.
Just like every transfer link we're in with.
We'll see how it plays out. But I bet you Liverpool, once Núñez and Diaz have been sold, will be back for Gordon and Isak. That's my prediction. And I've recorded
I don't think
now,
they'll sell.
So we'll
I don't think they'll sell Diaz not after the Jota tragedy.
No.
They were reluctant beforehand. I think it's very much no chance now. And Núñez, he might get sold, but it's 40 million. I think they've got enough. They've got too many gaps as a squad to spend another 100 million on one player. Isak's not going anywhere this year, but I think he will next year, to be honest.
They've got some fantastic young lads that can step up from their under-21s. They've already got 35 for Kwanzaa. They sell Elliott for 45. That's 80. And if they do get rid of Núñez for 40, there's your 120 to go with Kelleher's 18. And the what's he called, Doak, that they're sold for 10. There's 150, Michael. They've got it there without really putting too much of a hole in their squad.
Oh, we're forgetting they've just spent 100-odd million on Wirtz, and they're the lowest spender than us over the last 5 years. Their owners don't like spending money. They're not going to put 260 on 2 players.
Well, we'll see. Because if it's not us, Ekitike, who wants to come to the Premier League, will be going to Liverpool, and that'll put 90 onto what they've already spent. So I don't think
I'd
Liverpool
love
finished
it
yet.
if he went to Liverpool, because if he goes to Liverpool, he'll flop just as much as Nunes. Genuinely, if you took all the
think he will?
composure out of Alexander Isak, you'd maybe get something close to Atatürk.
We'll see.
Well,
he's
Just a
at the same
B-Tech.
point. Yeah, but he's at
B-Tech
the same
Alexander
point.
Isak.
He's at the same point as Isak was when we went and got him out of Spain. Now, same age. I think he's got all of that maturity still to come, and I think that's why they're asking for such a high value for him.
It is weird that
know-
they're asking for that when Marmoush went for. How much did Omar Marmoush go for? Because it was
Under
it was
50, I think.
definitely less than that.
Not sure,
I think it
actually.
was just under 50.
70 million. 70
right.
million euros plus 5 million add-ons. So, because I was going to say, Marmoush was the star player for Frankfurt when he was there. Atatürk has come through and done well. It is worth noting that Frankfurt have signed another striker. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. German fella who's just broke into the national team. So, they potentially have already bought a replacement. It could just be for Marmoush though, but yeah, it's one of those where I think he's an okay player, but I genuinely don't think we'd look at him twice.
No, not after.
Fair
What happened a
enough.
few years back as well.
Are
Well,
we doing a Zenny then?
well, I've only got about a couple of minutes left before my laptop will give out. As we all know, I get technical difficulties around the 35-minute mark.
Yeah.
So if you can sum it in 3 minutes, go for it.
Don't need to, Michael. I told everybody last night.
Oh, okay.
I told everyone. I talked for the last couple of minutes about whether we're going to buy Marc Guehi. Because he's back on the agenda.
Well, here's a question for you that you can give me a yes, or you can give me a one-word answer with a little briefing. If it came down to, because I don't think we'll bring in both. Obviously, we're linked with Marc Guehi again. This is like a never-ending bloody romance novel. If we can get one, Guehi or Scalvini, who are you taking?
Guehi for me, all day.
Guehi for me. Yeah, me too.
I think it's a safer option.
Two functioning legs.
Do we think we're gonna get it over the line? Do we think he's coming? I can't see
he
it.
goes to Liverpool next season. He lets his contract run out and goes to Liverpool to replace Canate.
It depends if Liverpool get him or not.
I'm sick of Liverpool. Sick of them.
No.
I'm absolutely sick of them.
They can buy all these players, same as Chelsea, but they can only play 11 of them when they turn up to play against us. Right?
Agreed.
That's what we've got to hang on to.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the end of it, of Newcastle's transfer saga. Obviously, whilst we've been recording this, Elanga's still not been announced officially. So we will be back on Monday with, I'm sure, a load of other rumours of transfers whilst we await over the weekend. So thank you both for joining. And I think I'm on Sunday with one of you two. I don't know. But anyway, I shall speak to you guys over the weekend. And thank you everyone for listening.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.